Woohoo!
Welcome to the Neuro-Pitch Podcast, where we ask industry leaders about their insights on life, sales, influence, persuasion, and so much more. And today we have a very guest coming up because she is best known as the voice for abused women. She was born in Serbia, raised in Bosnia, is now living in Australia, and through her own life challenges is now helping women find inner peace and confidence. Billy, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for your invite. And let me just tell you, I love that pitch podcast. And you summarized my bit of story like so well. Sometimes I get confused where I was born, where I come from, where I live now. So you've done a great job. And thank you for having me here.
It's good when you can be prepared. So I take the
Right.
kudos.
That's not me. Most of the time, that's not me.
So let's just jump straight in because as someone who probably heard it 1,000 times with his own life story, you went through some really rough shit. And there's a lot of things that happened in your life. And I ask you just before we started, is there anything you don't want to like talk about, or like can we just dive straight in? And you have
Mm,
the same energy in this way with me. Just dive in. Let's talk about whatever comes.
absolutely.
So looking back on your past, what do you think was the moment that changed you? Because if you have this way of, okay, there's really bad shit happening over and over and over again, at some point you probably realize, okay, there's some kind of pattern. Um, what was it for you that made you change and break the pattern?
Mm. When you put it that way, then you sort of start to think from the different angle as well, because for very long time, I did not see any patterns. I never thought, oh, wow, there is a pattern. There is a pattern that I'm relapsing in my journey of healing. There is a pattern of my toxic relationships. There is a pattern of so many things. But I think that one moment that really defined that transformation, or where I started to think more seriously than ever before, is when I really hit the rock bottom as a single mom, asking myself if I'm no longer here existing on this earth or in this world, what is my daughter going to do without me? And I feel that that was the moment in my life that I chose to do something with my journey.
Hmm. So reflecting on how you not being there anymore changed your view because you realized, okay, this would probably bring a lot of the horrible things that already happened to you,
Yeah.
just move the
Yeah.
pain to your daughter.
And absolutely. And here is one thing. What we fear the most, we do recreate subconsciously, whether we like to hear that or not. So as a child, I did not have my parents there with me. Sadly, it turned out that my father was, I never actually had a father, a loving father. I had a figure of a father, but it wasn't loving father. So I feel as a mom, subconsciously, I feared or started to sort of have these patterns of, okay, my daughter is not going to have her mom just based on the life how I was living. I was actually addicted to medications. I really did not know what health meant back in that day. I sort of had the idea of how a loving mom should be there for her child, what I need to do, but I had my version. So subconsciously, I did fear that my child will actually be without me. So that's when I caught myself and I said to myself, I even remember the moment. I said to myself, okay, this is the moment I'm actually going to do something. I've got a child here and I want my child to have mother, but not any mother, loving and caring mother. Yeah.
Do you know how your parents grew up? Did they have the same problems they did raising you, or were this was it totally different because it was different area that back then?
I not that anybody told me how my parents were brought up. However, the process through my transformational journey, I really learned so much about forgiveness, and that is something that in my own journey of coaching now that I support many women and men through the transformation. We do focus so much on forgiveness. So learning so much about forgiveness because I chose not to communicate with my father. I really had to come up with a story. What could have happened to him in order for me to sort of forgive him? Because we are not born as a perpetrators, murders. We're not born with mission to hurt people. We are conditioned that way, whether it's our parents, caregivers, whoever we are surrounded by in that period. So I started making up the story, treated me, what he could have gone through in his life in order for him to behave that way. So just a bit of a picture to paint for your audience. We're talking here about sexual abuse. So I'm a survivor of sexual abuse for 12 years, of 12 years. So I think even learning about that and looking back on my past, it's like, if, losing that or your self-esteem is crushed to the point that you don't even know where to start to rebuild. So it's actually one of the maybe worst case scenarios to look at any survivor of sexual abuse, that we really have a problem with self-esteem and confidence. We really have problem with trusting other people, trusting ourselves. We really have problem of moving on in our lives. So it can actually take us in one way or the other. One way, it's where I was before, addictions and the other things that really went, it was going like downhill, or make some changes. So through my own journey, I learned or made a picture of what my parent would gone through in order to behave that way. So I actually never stopped seeking, like if anybody would know anything about bringing up of my father. And the story is very, very similar to what I wrote and what I would hear, that, my father grew up in a very controlled household as well. I had a grandpa who used to abuse alcohol. So it was a lots of control and authority. And later on, when I learned about my journey, what I sort of gone through, um, uh, the survivors of sexual abuse, it's actually nothing to do with the sex or intimacy. It's actually the control. So the abuser, it is actually wanting to control the environment. So there are so many things that you go through in your transformational journey to really see things from different ways, to let it go, to forgive, to move on, and to start healing from those past traumas.
Thank you so much for sharing this because I mean, no comparison there. I know how it is to really to encounter these things, um,
Mm.
and the abuse and everything. And for me, it was hypnotherapy and coaches who helped me to really start letting it go and not defining myself over things that happened in the past. But I know there's a lot of people outside they who don't have these options, who don't have people to go through right now because they've been used so many times and trusted the wrong people so many times that they are hurt. So how did you find your way of forgiving them? Because it's easier said than done. And
Hmm.
how did you find your way of doing this?
When it comes to forgiving, we have to understand that that is something that matters to us. Forgiving, it's a choice. And for me, forgiving the abuser, the perpetrator, and whoever is listening to this and they can relate to this, the forgiveness is purely to free themselves. By forgiving my father, I free myself. And it has nothing to do with him or anybody else. It's me being at peace, me learning the lessons through the journey that I went through. And is this journey easy? Is this journey overnight? Certainly it's not. It's been almost a decade since I have been on this transformational journey, and day to day, I wake up, and some days they are good days, but some days they are not so good days. So it is an ongoing journey. But I think that we need to understand that when it comes to forgiveness, it's purely to do with us freeing ourselves. Do for yourself. Healing comes for you. We cannot change others people's way of how they act or do things. And I hear this so many times, like, Billy, but that person did not say sorry. So what would you put yourself in position? Somebody will come and say sorry, but they don't mean it. Will you really let it go and say, oh, okay, they did say sorry, I will move on? So literally doesn't have to do anything with the other person, because we can mean it or we don't have to mean it. We can lie, we can do so many things. So my whole journey of transformation, what I do today, it is for you to become your own boss, your own leader, to lead yourself, to trust within yourself, forgive you yourself, accept forgiveness, forgive others. It is about you. Yeah.
Yes. You do it for yourself, not to make them feel better, but to make yourself feel better. And
Mm.
I might want to add, they don't have to be in the room to do this, because a lot of times people, when I work with people in the past in like coaching situations, and I don't know how it was for you, um, a lot of them were like, but I don't want to have contact with them again. You don't need to. You can you can set a healthy boundary saying, hey, you know what,
Absolutely.
I forgive you, and I even can care about you, but I can care more about myself and my inner peace, and where
Yeah.
I am in my life and where I want to go in my life.
Yeah.
Um,
Forgiving somebody, it's not that you're condoning what they have done. Not at all. And you don't have to speak to them. It's been almost a decade that I haven't spoken to my father. And I do have my healthy boundaries. And I have some family members did actually reach out and they would say, like, Billy, would you ever talk to your dad? Um, I gave some deep thought and then I said, he can reach out, but it's not going to be, hey, how are you? Let's now rekindle and be family again. I would actually like to ask him some questions, and I don't need him to apologize nor explain some certain things, but I would want him to tell me, what did he go through?
mm,
It's not, why did you do it, all of these things, and I'm this, and I'm upset with you. I think I actually have reached that level of forgiveness that I'm at peace with what had happened. Number one, I would not be maybe doing what I'm doing today if I didn't go through that. So it's really like taking that journey and looking on also the positive side. Yes, it had so many negatives and many pains in along the journey, but who would have said that I would have been today life strategists helping these amazing men and women, whether professionally or personally, to really build their confidence and self-esteem? Who would have said that I would actually have this level of empathy and compassion and understanding for people if I did not go through that journey? So you don't have to talk to the people that they have hurt you. You're not condoning what they have done. It's purely for yourself. But if I ever had opportunity to talk to my father, it will be, okay, tell me more. What have you gone through? So maybe that will also give me deep understanding and deeper deeper forgiveness, because there is always that we can do more and better. So maybe I will achieve deeper level of that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this, because I think a lot of the times when people are on this journey of, okay, I want to forgive, I want to forgive them because I want to do it for myself. I want to feel better. I want not to be held back by the change of the past and the patterns that happens in the past. I think a lot of times people confuse this with, okay, I have to just overanalyze it over and over and over again, or I have to hold it, and when I have to hold them accountable for what they did. And you put it so elegantly with, if they would come and say sorry, and you have the feeling of they don't mean it,
Mm,
nothing would change
yeah,
anyway. So
yeah.
you might as well start forgiving them now.
The change
Uh,
starts with us. The change starts with us. It's not up to other person. The transformation starts with us. Everything starts with us. So there is no other, so many times we hear like you've got all what it takes to create things, everything we've got, it's within us. So that is also within us. Externally, there are all these other people. They cannot create the change. And again, as I said, like people can actually apologize, whatever, but if we have nothing has the meaning until we put meaning to it. So if we don't think or mean like, oh, did they really apologize or not? Again, we can translate that in many different ways. So change starts with ourselves. And sometimes that can be very, very challenging. A
yes,
lot challenging.
yes. One of my mentors once said, and this is one of the sentences like really stick to me. At some point, you're too old for the "I had a shitty childhood" excuse, and you have to just own it and
Yeah.
decide what kind of person you want to be. Um,
Absolutely. And how long are you going to stay victim?
yes.
How long are you going to stay in that passenger seat? How long? You have to ask yourself, what am I gaining with this where I'm now? Now, if you are sitting in the pain, you are stuck in some type of trauma, whatever there is, you can actually, maybe you've gone through, a divorce or separation or something had happened or abuse, something. You have to ask yourself, how long am I going to be in this place? What am I going to do? How is it working out for me? So sometimes we cannot focus on the positive side, but wherever you are, ask yourself, how is this working for me? How am I moving forward? If I keep doing this for next 6 or 12 months, where I'm going to end up, you definitely will not actually end up at the same spot. You will actually even dive deeper into that messiness, into that trauma, into that stuckness. So I think that's how we can actually flip on that positive side. Okay, what can I do? And you, like, no doubt, whatever situation is that you are going through right now, there is one another person in this beautiful world that has gone through very similar, if not the same situation that can support you. And then the question becomes how hungry I am for this transformation because there is already somebody who achieved what I want to achieve. So we cannot escape if we really want to become better, do better, and transform. We can't escape that. You're not just maybe looking at the right place, but that means like, okay, maybe I'm avoiding something. And sometimes it might be like it's not right time, it's too raw, it's too so. I get that. I get that because I actually started truly to transform in my mid 40s, which is a decade ago. Prior to that, I thought that I was good. My naiveness was telling me that I'm good. My ego, my pride, my everything, I was really good. I knew who I was. In fact, I did not know many things. And that's where that humility comes in. That's where that empathy, that's, where that compassion comes in. You just really need to stop and pause and rethink many things and be willing to receive. And day to day, like regardless where I'm in my journey, like I would always say the best teachers for me are my clients. The best teachers are beautiful children that you meet in playgrounds or, when we have families here, just be willing to learn from others. It's not, I know everything. I've got some status and, position. That's not the case.
It, it, it's so interesting because if you're watching this podcast on YouTube right now, you just see one movement of me that's just not in my head the entire time when you speak. Because I 100% agree. There's so many things that you touched that are so important. So on one hand, it is you have to think of yourself not only where you want to be, but you said it in a sentence. what do you gain from it if you keep
Mm,
repeating the pattern? Because as a hypnotherapist, a lot of the times when I work with people was, okay, why are you still holding on to it? Because you know it's bad for you. We can point on smoking, we can point on
mm.
relationships, we can point on business patterns, which I focused on then. But what's the secondary gain you get out of it if you keep being there? So maybe it's the attention, maybe it's that you have people coming to you like, oh no, poor you, and you get
Yeah.
some kind of comfort. Um, you mentioned, sorry, you mentioned that there were a lot of times when you still wake up, and first off, I call bullshit that you were in your 40s 10 years ago. A decade ago, that's no, you you don't look at a day older than
Mid
30.
30s, I think that I did say mid 30s. Now I'm now mid 40s.
Yeah, okay. Um, Still call bullshit. Uh, but when you had this moment and I'm sure you have this many times. What was the point for you that change where you at least thought, okay, I'm on the right track right now? Because I know a lot of people who are right now in this journey, they don't see the progress they already made. And when they look back in like 10 years, they're like, oh yeah, I'm feeling better now. But was there a point for you where you realized, okay, maybe this is, even though I don't know it all, this is the right way for me right now?
I think that was the moment where I realized that I reached out for support. Not again knowing how far will I get in my life or where will I end up. Now I have to keep in mind that that journey, like you really sometimes don't see yourself where you're going to be in 12 months' time, 3 years, 5 years. And this is again where I actually now understand my clients. When somebody has so many layers of pain and you ask them, so where do you see yourself in 12 months, 3 years or 5 years? They cannot think that far ahead because that is unfamiliar to them. So for me, to answer your question is knowing that I had people that I can lean on and they can keep me accountable and I can just keep moving forward, whatever that meant. Whether today I wake up and I just sit on the bed and think, okay, at least I woke up and I'm sitting, I'm not drowsy because I took my medication, so more than what I needed. Or when I would be able to have more energy with my daughter or anything that I did that I haven't done before continuously, it told me, hey, Billy, you are on the right path. And then slowly, little changes will happen. You won't actually see many changes in like, quite few months. But then again, you'll have that ability to set yourself a little goals, whatever that is for you. And if anyone knows a bit of my story, it's like that I actually had the most toxic mindset, limiting beliefs, negativity, that I became runner through that journey because I wanted to break my limiting beliefs, to stop saying these negative things to myself. And no doubt, whatever we go through in our life, we do have those limiting beliefs. So I really, from such a, and the point that I'm sharing this, it's like, at the beginning, you won't actually see improvement. You'll set little goals. Fast forward so many years later, like running marathons, doing bigger things, doing better things, being on stage and speaking, and, no medications, sober for last 9 years. So give yourself time. Do not judge yourself. Stop being a critic about where you are. As long as you show up, do something on a daily basis, no matter how small or big, good on you. Keep going. Keep going.
Yes. Um, First off, congratulations on being 9 years sober. Um,
Thank you.
that is a really great achievement. Um, I've met you in Los Angeles, and I've met also your wonderful husband, John, at this
Yes.
conference as well. And if you encounter these two in the wild, you can see how loving and caring you are both are to each other. How did you heal your maybe the patterns you had in the relationships? Because as again, someone who work with people like this and have my own experiences, um, I know how hard it is because you can at some point like trust people and friends, but having healthy relationships is a really big jump for most people. So how did you communicate your expectations, but also your boundaries in your relationship?
Mm. Great question. Great question. Um, for anyone that has been through the sexual trauma, they would know how challenging it is to have a healthy, intimate relationship with the person that and I'm now just going to focus on the marriage. I'm married. So, what I have done is to be very transparent from the day that I met John. I have been very open book. You know, in my journey, I'm quite open book. But you know, when you meet somebody, you think, oh, if I share something, are they going to judge me? All of these things they do appear. What about if I lose him? What about if he then gets scared of what I went through? What about if I'm too much? What about if he actually gets all of these what ifs? What ifs? So what I have done, I have been open book from day one. I have shared what I have experienced, where I'm at my journey, that I'm still evolving through this journey, that I need support. And it's very important for me, it was very important to be very transparent to the point that John also knows where I am coming from. I also did have and set my healthy boundaries, and they are non-negotiable. So, entering into marriage and into relationship, it's okay. They are the um, wheel of life, and each, you actually cover every section and your boundaries as well. But it takes two people. Now I could have been so transparent and sharing my healthy boundaries, but if somebody's not willing to respect that, it's end of the story. It's end of the story. So by sharing this and saying this, it's we both, whether I'm the one going through something and here I am meeting this amazing man, well, he's part of that journey as well. So we have to understand that even though if it's only one of us we went through something, having that another person in our life, it actually becomes our journey now. So I think what actually really help us, it's communication. It is communication. It is checking in. It is also checking in on how I feel about some certain things. It's not assuming. And one thing that I also said to John, it's do not ever assume, you ask. Because if you're assuming, you will get hurt, buddy, because I am spicy when I get nipped. So communication is the key. Um, Revisiting things, really knowing like how we feel about some certain things, and we actually know that men and women, we do things differently. We are such emotional creatures, and men, they are like driven, like solution driven. So we really had to work so much. But again, saying that, John came through from the other journey, that we sort of both had a bit of a baggage of some certain things, and we really had to work through it. So we went through some serious therapy as well, professional help, coaching day to day. We have our if I can say, team of support, where it's wellness, mindset, psychologists, and there is no shame in that. And that's another thing. Many people, they might feel like, oh, a bit of a shame with all of this support. For us, again, where is that taking me? I'm becoming a better person. The more better I am, and the better my husband is, we can contribute to the world with what we do. Yeah. Not sure if I really answered your question, but that's sort of like, to summarize everything in these
I,
few minutes.
I think you truly did it because a lot of people say they communicate, and a lot of people claim that communication is a big factor, but you live it, and you can tell it because getting outside help, for example. Um, yes, a lot of people are see a bit of like shame into it, or they don't know. Oh, I can't say we have like a couple therapists, for example, or something. Uh, I think you can share as everything because at the end of the day, it's not up to you to judge this. People who judge most of the time, like people who judge me, I wouldn't want to swap places with them in the first place. Never met a hater who has a life that I aspire to have. But
Mm.
for the communication part, and I'm asking now this as a background, as a former dating coach for men and women, how did you how did you set your boundaries in a, let's call it, attractive way? Because there's people who are like, I set boundaries, but essentially they just burn bridges before they build, because they don't want to get hurt, so they throw everything at them straight, and they're like, yeah, they have to deal with that. I don't think this is what you did. This is now my
Mm.
assumption, but I'm
Well,
asking
one
you,
thing is,
how did you do it?
yeah, the thing is, you actually show people how you want to be treated. You don't just say it because we are looking for the alignment. So, if you came here and you said, well, Billy, this is what we're going to do on this podcast, and here are the rules and all of these, that's perfectly fine. But then we need to show it rather than just say it, because actions, they're more powerful than just words. So I think in any stage of our life, whatever it is actually, setting your boundaries by you set them by showing how you want to be treated. And if you actually just go by like, treat others the way how you want to be treated, it's actually easy to follow through. And I can always like, okay, is that how you want to be treated? Like, it's not just like, oh, let me just tell you that's not appropriate. But for me, and that could be also journey of, being a strategist, to always draw out things by asking profound questions. How is it working for us? Do you think, that it could be something else in here rather than you thinking or assuming? So like you really need to take person through to think for themselves rather than, because that's when we sort of adapt or conquer those, boundaries. Because if we walk through that journey, it becomes more real to us rather than, hey, I've just heard Billy saying that, or I've just heard John saying that as my husband. So you really show people how to be treated. And maybe that actually now becomes easier to me because I went through quite a bit of a training of, how to speak, how to extract the best out of people or even our team members. And so it's, yeah, next level of communication.
Yeah. I think you're all about alignment and embodiment, because there's talk and there's doing and living it. And I think you are a living proof of what can happen if you just make the decision. Um,
Mm.
when it comes to your children now, this is the other the relationship I want to ask you about, is how how do you secure a better future for them? Because I've met a lot of people who overcame and forgive and everything, but now they have children, and or they want to have children, but maybe they are terrified because at the end of the day, even the things that happened to them in the past wasn't done in bad faith. It was just they didn't know better, as horrible.
Mm.
So how do you how can you have this communication with your children, especially when it comes down to maybe things aren't going as smoothly as they could be?
Okay. So if I heard you correctly, you were also asking how do I secure um, or make safety for my child as well um, geez, you should have actually warned me a little bit more about this, profound questions. So I've got a beautiful 17-year-old girl, and I hear you when you say like, some people they sort of, have, you sort of have child and then you think, okay, some of them they're maybe scared and they decide not to have children, whatever. So for me, one thing when it comes to my child, It's nothing more important, in my view, is more than in building the healthy emotional and mental foundation for my child. And based on my journey, I'm actually quite open with my child as well. She does not know the depths of what her mom went, but she certainly knows why mom behaves certain way. And in beginning, I was quite protective. I would want to really shelter her. I was scared to send her, to visit family members, let alone to do sleepovers or anything. So again, the relationship with my child and the way how I deal with her, it had to do so much with my personal growth. We can now turn around and say, well, my child is this or that, whatever. But we, as parents, again, we are conditioning our children. So once I learned the power of that conditioning, I did everything that I could do in my power to turn that around, to embed what I believe and what I thought it will serve my daughter for better future. And materialistically, I don't focus on that, because today we can have, tomorrow everything is gone. But again, what we've got within. So my main focus in that is that emotional and mental, spiritual foundation that she would carry to prepare her for the future, because we are bringing up adults, not children. She needs to start thinking for herself, not relying on mommy and daddy. And yes, my daughter, she is from divided household. So throughout last 16 years, her dad and I, we really continued to be in her life, and we have been full-time parents, not 50-50. Even though it's a split household, it is full-time parenting from both ends. And that's when we understand the importance of bringing up healthy children. And yes, did I have challenges to protect her, to overprotect her? Yes. Did I have to be reminded? Absolutely. Today, I would even say to her, sweetheart, mommy's just worried. That's not your fault. It is me. My lingering trauma. So I am always reminding my beautiful child that it is actually mommy's thing. It's nothing that she's doing wrong. She needs to get out. She needs to party. She needs to experience things. She needs to make decisions for herself. She needs to choose for herself. But I will constantly tell her, it's just mommy. It's just lingering trauma. I'll work on that.
Mm.
Yeah, but it is a scary thing. It was actually a scary thing for me to have a beautiful child with baggage that I had at the time when I had her, and all of the rest. How many things, like I couldn't even actually send her on a private class with a teacher with two or three kids in the classroom. I remember being on the phone and crying and calling her dad and said, I can't let her to be behind the closed doors with the teacher. And he goes, are you for real, Billy? So this is a real thing. So if there is anybody listening to this that are in similar situation, this is real. But we don't need to put kids through that. We need to work on ourselves. And whether now or later on, we will somehow need to work on that trust issue. And that's where, again, going back as a survivor of sexual abuse, we do have lots of trust issues with ourselves and with others. And we need to acknowledge that it's nobody else's fault. Like, we now need to take that responsibility. And I would always say this, I have been only 6 years of age when everything started to happen. I could not take ownership as a child, 6 year old, like, under that control environment. But the moment I moved on, I, left home. And as an adult, that's where we need to take the ownership of our journey. Yeah, we can make it. We can make it. We can do it.
Yes. I have nothing to add except thank you so much. And I heard an amazing question when I was on your podcast. And so I'm going to throw it right back at you. If you had one message you can share with not just the audience, but with the whole world, what would it be?
So is this what we're doing? Is this what we're doing? So yeah, you heard that question on my podcast, and now here you are, Billy. I'll throw back at you the message. There are so many messages, Lucas. There are so many messages, but I think that what's really appropriate for today's episode 8 is to embark on journey to heal, to transform, and to go out and help somebody. We don't need to be coaches, life strategists. We don't need to be doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists to go out and help. We can just be next door neighbor. We can be that relatable person and go out and help somebody because somebody's waiting just to hear what you have to say, maybe your journey, and to be empowered to live. And why do I say to live? Because many people have heard my story, and even they said to me, Billy, the moment I heard your message or your story, that was the moment where I decided that I will live. So gain that courage to transform, to heal, and go out and help somebody. And there is so many people that they're waiting to also support you and help you with whatever journey or wherever you are right now in your life.
If the people, and I'm very, very certain right now that there's a lot of people who want to have more of you, listen to you, your energy, want to work with you, how can they reach out and where?
The best way it's billyboss.com website. That's my website. They can reach out. They can actually, leave the message there as well. Follow on Instagram or Facebook again under Billy Boss. And there, I actually share a lot of valuable tips and strategies how to build your confidence and self-esteem through the Boss Confidence podcast. So more than welcome to visit that as well and take whatever you need and whatever your heart desires to support you throughout building your self-esteem, your confidence, and becoming your own boss, leading yourself first.
Billy, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you like this podcast, and it's going to be hard because I think it can get better than this. So the next 100, 200 episodes going to be really brutal, but I'm going to take on the challenge. If you like this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review, follow us for more, and listen very, very soon again.